Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm actually going to be doing an experiment. I'm going to be utilizing some weathering pigment, in this case Burning Sands from Secret Weapon. Oops. And I'm going to be experimenting with a new way to apply it. So let me explain. Anybody who's ever used the weathering powders knows that applying them dry is kind of a pain in the butt. They don't necessarily want to go on. They certainly don't want to stay, and when you clear coat over them, they sometimes just vanish. Now, back in '97, when I was working on Starship Troopers, we actually had a quick and dirty method for doing weathering on the models, and it was a spray can of temporary hair color called Streaks and Tips. And what I've realized over the years is what Streaks and Tips really was just pigment and hairspray. And so I've been meaning to try this for a while, and I have actually done a little bit of experimenting with this on my own, but I haven't done a lot with it, and I thought I'd do a little bit more, and I'd kind of show you the direction my experiments have been going. But essentially what I'm experimenting with today is using hairspray as a medium to apply weathering pigments with the airbrush. So with that in mind, I'm just going to get started. So right now I've got the pigment, and I've got some Suave Professionals Volume 24-Hour Hold. This was essentially just the cheapest hairspray I could find last time I went to the store. And I actually bought this for doing hairspray chipping on models. And that is one thing to consider when you are, if you're thinking about experimenting with this, because I'm not showing you a final product. I'm showing you my experiments. And I'm just spraying this into a cup. But the one thing to keep in mind is that hairspray makes a fantastic material for doing chipping effects because it's water soluble. And so when you, so let's say you lay down a coat of paint, and this is sort of, I'm digressing here, but it is for a point. You lay down a coat of paint, you lay down a coat of hairspray, you lay down another coat of paint, then you wet that top coat, and it softens up the hairspray underneath, and so you can chip the paint and get a really nice effect, and you get the color coming through from the underside. So that means that this really should be done as a final coat. If you're going to be working with the paint at all anymore after this, then don't. Save this as the very last thing, only for weathering, because if you put down hairspray and then wet it again later, it's going to come up. I need a brush. There we go. So I don't know if you can see, it's just sort of floating around in there. I'm going to mix it up. And I have no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just trying to make it kind of thick enough, and I'm not sure. I just want the pigment to break up in there. One of the things we noticed back when we were using the Streaks and Tips, I would sometimes spray it into a thing like this so that I could run it through the airbrush and get a little bit more control. And what we noticed is that the pigment would separate really, really quickly in the liquid, which again, I'm pretty sure it's just hairspray. That's what it smelled like anyway. So you needed to keep it moving. You couldn't let it sit for too long. I'm going to throw down just a little post-it note so that I can see the difference. All right. Now I'm just going to lay down. I'm just going to spray this and get a sense of, you know, what the effect is going to be. Well, it's not terribly visible because I think what this is doing is really just dusting it up. which, you know, can be a cool effect if that's what you're looking for. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's see what it looks like underneath. There, you can see it's very subtle. Let's see if we can dry that really quick. It's super subtle, but it is there, and you could build it up even more. Here, let me put this back. I didn't even use all of it. There's still a bunch in there. There, that's all of it. There. So it's a very, very subtle effect, but it is definitely there. And the neat thing is, it's not just going to rub right off, because the hairspray is holding it in place. So that would also mean that I should be able to apply some varnish over the top of it. And it doesn't blow away. So let's try, since I have this still mixed up. All right, let's try applying it with a brush. This is my, this is an old Ralpartha mini, Ralpartha TSR. I don't know what it's supposed to be, maybe a demon, but it's from 1992. It's been sitting in my drawer for a while, and I occasionally bring him out to act as a test bed for various painting effects. Because he's got so much surface detail. All right. So I've just slathered that on there with a wash. Then I can dry it out. Hold on. So really subtle. You could certainly add more pigment to the liquid to get a more pronounced effect. Let's do that over on his arm here. And dry it off. And there's so much heat on the hair dryer that it's becoming hot to the touch. Yeah, that's a little bit heavier, and you can see it's kind of getting really dusty and dirty, which is good. I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for with the pigments. But it's not quite as dry as you might get if you just apply it with, say, rubbing alcohol, which completely evaporates, or with water, which does the same. But it's still pretty cool, and I think I'm going to experiment with it some more. You know, play with some other colors maybe. So let's do this other arm with this kind of blue-green. Yeah, interesting. And then, of course, the final thing is, if you don't like your results, you can just go in with some water and let it soak in, and then it'll mostly come out. But the other interesting thing is you can also kind of wet it and scrub it to kind of get it off of the surface area too. Or with the other piece, we might go in with a large brush, if I could find my large brush. Where's my large brush? And streak it, or otherwise, see how it's just coming right up? But you can also, well, with the other stuff you could streak it. This seems to just want to come up. But the interesting thing is that can create some interesting effects. I'm not sure if it's useful, but it is interesting. And again, this is an experiment, and this is really as much for my purposes as to show you something. And maybe you want to experiment with this and show me what you've been able to do with it. Or tell me why this is a horrible idea, and maybe I shouldn't pursue it anymore. But actually, I do think it's going to be something that I'm going to try, I think, on a base sometime in the near future, like in a final product. I could see using this method for dusting up onto the base of a Mini, as I sometimes do, you know, to bring the ground color up into the model, as if he's been walking around for a long time and the dirt is starting to dust up onto his legs. So that's it. That's just a little experiment that I've been kind of working on and thinking about, and I just wanted to share it with you, and hopefully you can do something with it. I don't know. We'll see. But that's going to be it for now, and I will talk to you later.